Hi guys, it's Josh Lloyd here, ready to give you the NBA first look for DraftKings for Monday's action. Hey, subscribe while you're here. Hit that bell button and you'll never miss any of the episodes that we put out. Let's get straight into these games for Monday. For DraftKings, it's a 9-game slate. The first game we're going to look at is Charlotte and Philadelphia. The Sixers are 9.5-point favorites here in this one. The total is 219, so relatively low, but there are a few other ones that are lower than this one. I don't know whether the Hornets are going to make a change in their starting lineup. I believe they could, with LaMelo Ball perhaps replacing Devontae Graham. PJ Washington is also dealing with a thumb problem, so there is some concern about his playing time at the moment. I love Embiid here, though. 9,900 it's really, really good for Joel Embiid. We know how good Joel Embiid is, and against this Hornets team, he should be an absolute 50-point monster. I'm also big on LaMelo Ball. He's at 5,600. LaMelo he got 37 points last game. He had 32 the game before that. He had 44 the game before that. He's getting these 30 minutes and 30-point DraftKings nights relatively consistently. So he's a pretty strong option for me as well. While Tobias Harris is also putting up the big ones at the moment. 7,600 is averaging over 40 for the year. Not someone to be ignored. I think Gordon Hayward at 73 also looks the goods, as does Seth Curry at 5,600. So quite a bit of value in this matchup overall. Even though there is a little bit of a blowout risk, I still think the Hornets guys especially are going to be able to put up some pretty good numbers for us in this matchup. The next one we look at, we've got the Cavs. They're taking on the Orlando Magic. Now, Cleveland, of course, is going to be without Kevin Love, but there's other injury concerns here. James Ennis and Evan Fournier for the Magic. We don't know if they're going to play. That'll mean more Dwayne Bacon, more Cole Anthony, more Michael Carter-Williams, most likely. And for Cleveland, Darius Garland is questionable with a shoulder issue. He hurt that last game. Let's see if he plays. Isaac Okoro also questionable. If Garland is out, that means Exum will probably move across to point guard, and it will mean we get Chetty Osman playing as the small forward, but it means a lot more ball handling for Colin Sexton and a lot more usage. If we want to look at value, in this one, Ennis at 3,100, I don't think we can really use him because we don't know that he's going to play. Garland would be pretty nice at 5,900, but his shoulder, it definitely had an impact on him last game, so I'm not ready to get involved with him. And Fournier, similarly, if we knew that he was playing, 5,200 looks like a pretty good price tag, but there's a big risk with both of those guys. I think Markelle Fultz at 6,500 is probably a little bit too highly priced. Aaron Gordon's one that interests me. We saw him get some production back last game. He'd been really struggling. He's at 5,900. He had 33 last game, and I think that he absolutely is worth at least a GPP look. And maybe more. Maybe he's a cash guy that we can have a look at as well. But he's got some real value here. Andre Drummond really was poor last time out, only 20 minutes, but he's at 9,200. I'd feel okay about going back to Andre Drummond. He's going up against Nick Vucevic, but that's not really a defensive issue that's going to cause too many problems. And then Nance at 7,100. He's been putting up big numbers for us. I reckon that's maybe a little bit too expensive, though, for Laz. They're at that sort of a price. Next up, we've got the Knicks. They're taking on the Atlanta Hawks, the thriving Knicks, the thrusting Knicks. They're really, really good at the one. They're playing well at the moment. I'm not saying they're really good. Let's calm down, Josh. The Hawks are 6-point favorites here, and the total is 222. Julius Randle's at 9,000. You feel like he's getting you 45 really every single game, and that, of course, is great value at that price. And it's not like the Hawks' defense is all that good. Now, Atlanta does have Rajon Rondo, who's doubtful. We know that Danilo Gallinari is out, and then Kevin Huerter has appeared on the injury report as questionable. For the Knicks, Alec Burks is still questionable, so that's a big blow to see whether he's going to play or not. That's a big change in terms of what happens with Reggie Bullock. Of course, Obi Toppin remains sidelined for the Knicks. Capella's at 6,100. 30 minutes across the weekend, big production. I like him in this one. Burks at 54 would be interesting if he plays, but you can only use that really in GPPs. And I don't like that Alfred Payton's come up to $6,000. It's probably a little bit too high. RJ Barrett, he's going to play about 100 minutes, so that's worth looking at there. Now, of course, he apparently only knows how to hit threes against the Indiana Pacers. He's hit 7 against them and none against any other team. But he's almost a 35-point lock. And with Gallinari out and potentially having the absence of Kevin Huerter, I think that does mean that it gives us more minutes for John Collins. And at his price of $7,200, I think that is a relatively good area to be considering Johnny Collins there at that sort of price. The next game we take a look at is the Boston Celtics. They're taking on the Toronto Raptors. Really exciting matchup here. Now, of course, the Celtics on a back-to-back. That means we probably don't get Tristan Thompson. He sat out the last back-to-back. I don't know how long that'll go on. That's not confirmed. But that means that the Rock DJ, Robbie Williams, at 4,100 is worth at least a GPP look. If he plays 20-plus minutes, he'll beat 25 points, and that's, of course, really strong value for us. Chris Boucher has been out playing Aaron Baines in pretty much every game, and he's at 5,100. I don't think the Daniel Tice, Robert Williams combination is going to limit Boucher's minutes like Joel Embiid did. So he's a really interesting option for us here, I think. Tatum's at 8,600, who can't get to the foul line apparently, but still giving us 40 most nights. He looks pretty strong. Lowry's going to get a ton of minutes, as is Van Vliet. Now, Lowry is at 8,000 and Van Vliet's at 77. I will take Fred, and I will pocket that extra $300 and spend it somewhere else. Siakam, I don't have any trust in him whatsoever, while Jaylen Brown is all the way up at 8,300. And as well as Jaylen has been playing, I'm not really sure that he's worth that salary. He played well against Detroit today and had 36 points. And at 8,100, I want him to do a little bit more. I think given that price tag, he's a little bit overpriced. The Raptors are favored in this one by 3 points, and the total here is 215. The next game that we take a look at, we've got the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're taking on the Miami Heat. This one here is a 7:30 p.m. tip. In terms of value here, or injury news, we need to look at Avery Bradley is questionable. So if he is out, there is some opening in the Miami Heat rotation. Olynyk is at 3,900. Now he has been playing really well of late, and I'm a big proponent of Kelly Olynyk here. Now, he has been someone in the past that when he puts together some good games, he shits the bed after that. But 22, 33, and 24 in his last 3 games at a sub $4,000 price. I'm all about him. Gilgeous-Alexander's dropped to 7,800. That puts him in play to me. At that sort of a salary, I like him at that price. And Butler is down at 7,400 because of how disappointing he was to begin this season. He's just averaging 25 points so far, only for GPPs for me. But I do like Darius Baisley at 5,800. Really got it going last time out. Adebayo at 85 I think is too high. I don't want Dunk Robinson and I don't want Tyler Hero in a game that Jimmy Butler is playing. Next game we take a look at is the Indiana Pacers. They're taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. Bring up them on the screen there. This is an 8 p.m. tip for this one. The Pelicans are 1-point favorites, and the total here is 218. For the Miami one and Oklahoma City, the Heat are 8-point favorites, and there is a bit of a blowout risk there, I guess. But the Thunder have been pretty feisty, and the Heat haven't been at their best, so I wouldn't be necessarily banking on that. For this one here, of course, no TJ Warren for the Pacers, so Aaron Holiday at 3,500. He's not the greatest option, but 3,500, a guy that might get you 22 or 23 points, maybe. Best case, that's not bad value. Miles Turner's at 6,400. We like what Turner's been doing in general. It's still probably a little bit risky, as is Lonzo at 67. This is not one that I'm massively into attacking, despite the narrow point spread. I just don't see value really staring me in the face. Like Sabonis has been great, but 9,500, it's a pretty hefty price tag. 79 for Zion Williamson. I'm not interested in it. 8,400 for Brandon Ingram. I could get behind that, but I also don't feel super confident. He's been pretty good. In fact, he's been really good. And we have had that game against the Thunder where he got ejected, but the one before that against the Suns, just 30 points. He's a little bit up and down, and at that salary, I'd like a touch more consistency. Eric Bledsoe's up to 6,300 because he absolutely blew up last game. 48 points. I wouldn't want to trust that. If he came in at under 6,000, I think you could make an argument for Bledsoe. I'm not ready to make it for him at that $6,300 price tag at this point. Next is the Detroit Pistons. They are taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. It is a back-to-back for Detroit. I would assume that Blake Griffin is out, Derrick Rose is out, and Josh Jackson is out after spraining his ankle on Sunday. I don't know that for sure, but that's how I'm approaching that at this point. That means that Killian Hayes is going to get more minutes and more touches. Maybe he does nothing with them. That's a distinct possibility. But at 3,500, a starting point guard who might play 29 minutes, and the last time he did that, you can see there against the Hawks, 29 minutes, he had 29 DraftKings points. That is really dependent on the fact that Rose and Griffin sits, but that's worth looking at. And if Jackson's out as well, Delon Wright's at $4,000. You got to look at that as well because his minutes should spike back up. Mason Plumlee at 58, I like regardless. And then Giannis Antetokounmpo's at 10,800. Look, he's going to get 55. You feel really confident about him doing that most nights, especially against this Pistons team. We can also look at Sadiq Bey at 3,900, who last time Blake Griffin sat, we saw pretty big performance, 30 minutes and 33 DraftKings points. So he at 3,900 would come into play. And I think you could look at Svi Mikhailiuk as a flyer type. He really came on strong with Jackson out in Sunday's game, and there could be a big opportunity for him to put up some good numbers. Jeremy Grant is only at 6,900, and he is just getting a ton of minutes and playing really well. Yeah, sure, stuff could fall off at some point, but I'm all about Jeremy Grant, especially at that salary point that he is at the moment. The next one we have a look at is the Dallas Mavericks. They're taking on the Houston Rockets. If you want to have a look at this one, there is no spread. There's no spread for the Detroit-Milwaukee game at this point, at the time of recording. James Harden, of course, missed last time for the Rockets. If he is out, Eric Gordon and Sterling Brown are the guys we want to take a look at. And, of course, it really boosts the value of John Wall and Christian Wood in that scenario. Luka Doncic did not play on Sunday. They say he's day-to-day, so we'll label him questionable at this stage. Jalen Brunson is going to be probably the biggest beneficiary there. Timmy Hardaway also gets a bit of a bump if Luka does happen to be out. Porzingis isn't going to play, so I don't think we need to get excited about him. Doncic at 10,300. I wouldn't want to use him with this quad issue. I like Christian Wood, 7,400, irrespective of Harden. He's awesome if Harden is out, and he's still good if Harden is in. And then Harden at 11,1. I think I'd probably lean away from him at this point, but I would lean into John Wall at 7,600 if James Harden is sidelined. You've got Hardaway at 6,000, who's an interesting player if Doncic is out. Same with Brunson, who's at 3,300 and really put up some good numbers in Sunday's action. Eric Gordon at 5,700 is only, to me, a play if Harden happens to be out. Otherwise, he probably is a little bit overpriced in that scenario. The last game of the day, we're looking at the Sacramento Kings. We're looking at the Golden State Warriors. I'm recording this one during the Kings and the Warriors game. Get this one out for you as quickly as possible. But I don't know whether Draymond Green's going to play. Now, he's on a minutes limit in Sunday's game. He could be restricted, and he could be sitting completely, and that means Juan Toscano Anderson and Eric Pascal will get those minutes. Not they're great options that we want to use. Kelly Oubre's at 5,500. We know how poor he's been, but I'm okay. You're always throwing him into a GPP at that lowered salary, while Rashawn Holmes has been killing it. Yes, the last two games have been against the Rockets, so maybe that's why Walton was leaning into him more. But he is putting up some absolute cracker lines. His last two games have given us 48 and 26, and at that salary, I'm about using him. I like it a lot. Bud Hield's at 68 feels too expensive to me. De'Aaron Fox at 8.2 also is on the high side. Harrison Barnes at 56. Love what he's been doing for some reason. He's going up against his former team here. He's getting a lot of minutes. His rebound numbers are really high. He's playing a lot more at the 4, which is helping his numbers. I don't mind him as a cash play, but limited upside overall. While James Wiseman at 5,000, it's just hard to get invested in Wiseman at this point. I think he's worth at least having in your player pool, but not one that I'm going to be super invested in for this matchup against the Sacramento Kings. That'll do it for today's DraftKings First Look. Make sure you are subscribed, as I said, and hit that notification bell. Leave a comment down below, give it a thumbs up as well, and good luck in setting your lineups for Monday's games in the NBA. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.